Hello and welcome to the session of The Ladder, a love letter to my sisters in the pew. So this is an 18-part series that I am sharing on YouTube, and it's for anybody who self-identifies with this topic. It is from the book. I'm taking sections from the book The Ladder, My Sisters in the Pew, which is available on Amazon for $9.99 and on Kindle for 99 cents. So I'm trying to make it as accessible as possible. So I'll go ahead and get started. This is session 6, and it's entitled, Can't God Fix Him? Can't God fix him? Can't he change? Which is, I feel like it's a good question. I think it's something that as a Christian, we just assume that God can fix anyone. And of course, God's God and he can do anything. So anyways, we'll dive into that topic. I'm going to start by sharing a little section, a precursor to dive into this topic. I just want to put this out there as some just good basic information on this topic, and then we'll dive into today's topic. So this is from page 38, if you've got the book and you want to follow along. Page 38. It's titled Myths About Domestic Violence, and I still struggle with that word. It is domestic, meaning it happens in your home. Violence sounds physical. But there can also be threats of violence, which is a form of violence. Sometimes you don't need to say, you don't need to do anything, all you have to do is say it. And there can be violent, angry situations that can still fit into that topic. So anyways, I have to accept the term. And if you struggle with it, I understand. So this is just from that book. And actually, I think it's an article. If you ever wonder where things are at, in the back on my bibliography, I have listed everything. And I think this is actually an article. It reads, all couples argue. It's just a normal relationship. So maybe that's your thinking. All couples argue. This is just a normal relationship. I certainly thought maybe what I was experiencing was normal, even though I knew it was bad. I didn't really know what normal is. So this is just some discussion about that. All couples argue. It's just a normal relationship. But the reality is abuse and disagreement are not the same things. Different opinions are normal and completely acceptable in healthy relationships. Abuse is not a disagreement. It is the use of physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological violence or threats in order to govern and control another person's thinking, opinions, emotions, and behavior. When abuse is involved, there is no discussion between equals. There is a fear of saying or doing the wrong thing. Ugly times are not a part of a healthy marriage relationship. Marriage is not supposed to be this difficult. Marriage is not supposed to hurt so much of the time. So I just wanted to start with that, just to kind of just do a broad look of what we're talking about. And now we're going to jump into, can't God fix him? Can't he change? So starting out on page 60. This is called Can't He Change? People change. That small 2-word sentence is actually a huge, significant statement that carries a lot of weight. We are taught to believe that change is something that we all have the capacity to do. And when we're married to a broken husband, we want to give them ample opportunity to do just that. We hold on to hopes that they will change because we desperately want them to. Yes, we desperately want them to. Because we remember how they were different in the past. And if they've changed for the worse, Can't they change for the better? Good question. Unfortunately, these behaviors are learned attitudes and feelings of entitlement and privilege, which can be extremely difficult to truly change. Because of this, there is a very low percentage of abusers who truly change their ways. And that's from an article that I've referenced called Hotline. And then this next section says, can't God fix him? This is a good question. The simple answer is yes and no. Can the wife ask God to help her through whatever is ahead? Yes, absolutely. She can ask God to help her heal her husband. Yes. But does he want help? Does he think he has any problems or issues? Does he feel what he's done is any wrongful behavior? Abusers often blame others and sometimes appear repentant, but are often unwilling to make real changes to stop their abuse. So that actually went into page 61, if you're trying to follow along. 6-1. Okay, and now I'm going to go to 72. It's kind of a deeper dive. There's some sections from Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That?, which is a very good book on the psychology of kind of behind understanding abusive men or women. There's a chapter in this, just as a side note, called My Brothers in the Pew, which addresses this same issue. And I don't know how common it is, but I know it does exist, where we have brothers in the pew who are also trapped in abusive marriages. All right, so this says, can an abuser be cured? Dr. Bancroft makes a fascinating statement about this topic when he states, abuse is a problem of values, not of psychology. So values means a person's principles or standards of behavior, which is their moral compass. And that is what is askew in abusive men. We all must choose the path of right or wrong behavior. We are born sinners. We all must choose if we are going to die to self and serve God, or if we're going to keep self on the throne. When a person in an abusive relationship, when a person is an abusive husband, he has himself firmly on the throne, expecting those around him to serve him. The main barrier, and this is on to 73, the main barrier at the bottom, the main barrier that exists for a husband to make lasting change for his abusiveness is that any man with any behavioral problem has to receive help. He must first acknowledge that he needs help. And then, again, quoting, this is on to 74, again quoting Bancroft. He writes, abusers are unwilling to be non-abusive, not unable. They do not want to give up power and control. I'm going to read that quote again. Abusers are unwilling to be non-abusive, not unable. And then this is a quote from Darby Strickland's book, and it reads, Christian counselor Darby Strickland shares on the topic as well, and she uses the word oppressors. And I wrote down the definition of oppressor throughout her book. When she's describing an abusive husband, she uses the word oppressor. And it's defined as keep someone in subservience and hardship, especially by the unjust exercise of authority, which is exactly what an abusive husband does. So this is her quote, oppressors, and I put in parentheses, abusive men, are not grieved by their own sin and are not committed to change. And then she further states, keep in mind that oppressors, abusive husbands, will not engage earnestly in the process, and very few repent. So I would just say, can God change them? Absolutely. But do they want to change? God can do anything, but it has to start with a repentful heart. And based on Darby Strickland's work with these men in these situations, she just says very few repent. They've got hard hearts. So anyways, that is my topic for today. I thank you for joining me. Goodbye for now.